Once your virtual machine starts up, you should see these lines. What you need to do next is type in your login name and your password. For the purposes of this VM for this course, both of them are the word Vagrant. Small V-A-G-R-A-N-T for both login and password. When you type in the password, it's not going to actually show you what you're typing or that you are even typing. Don't worry about it. Just type it in and hit enter. You will know you've logged in or you've signed in once you get these set of lines showing up. Now that we're signed in, we're going to get started with understanding some of the terminologies and running some simple commands. Before we do that, I would like you to go to the main page for the course for this specific module and find a link to the notes on this section. We're going to follow the commands that are under the introduction and the terminal section of the notes. Alright, so what we have here is a terminal that is open. A terminal is how we interact with the Unix system. The basic command line system, as we've talked about when we were going over the slides, is the act of typing a specific command with other necessary input and output parameters on the command prompt and hitting enter and letting the shell talk to the kernel and run this command. What we are looking at here is the terminal window. You will notice that there is a small cursor, and if you start to type in, the cursor moves. When you start to type in, you will notice that before the characters show up, there is a $sign, which is preceded by a whole set of characters. This whole setup is called the command prompt. And when you type anything on the command line, it appears in front of the command prompt within the terminal. In the notes, you will find that all the commands that we are going to be typing in are in front of the $sign. So if you are typing in anything that's within the notes, don't type the $sign. That is just to indicate that we are typing on the command prompt. Anything that's followed by the hash or the pound sign is going to be a comment. So let's start by listing all the files that are present in this current directory. Anything that shows up in blue is a folder, and anything that shows up in white is a file. The Unix file system is very similar or identical to any file system that you have used, whether it's on a Windows machine or whether it's on a Mac. How you go from folder to folder is what changes, because you're typing in commands to say, I want to go to my desktop folder, or I want to go into the sequence folder, so on and so forth. And we will learn how to do some of these very basic things. Let's list all of the files or folders that are within the Unix exercise directory. So what we are going to do now is say ls space and follow that by the Unix_exercise folder name. This tells us that the Unix_exercise folder has 2 folders within it and 2 files. We know that they're folders and they're listing in blue because within this VM they have been customized to do so. But if you're working in a different Unix system, this may not be true. So if you really wanted to see if something was a folder or a file, there is another way to do it. If we say ls and give it the flag -F and we say Unix_exercise, and we can do this with any folder. We can do this with the current folder, in which case we will not say anything here, but we want to see what's inside the Unix folder. So let's take a look. Using the -F flag with ls now shows us the folders again in blue. However, they're followed by a slash. In any Unix system, when you do ls-F, all the folders will have this slash in front of them. So you know to differentiate between the folder and a file. So the ls command does not just show us what's inside a folder. It can just show us a given file. Say we wanted to list the file readme.txt that is within the Unix_exercise folder. What we need to do is say ls, and we can say -f, but we've already seen that it is not a directory. So we can just say ls, we know it's a file, Unix_exercise. And then this is telling the shell that we are looking for a file inside the Unix_exercise directory. In this case, we are looking for the readme.txt file. Let's make a new file using the touch command. Say touch followed by test file. Nothing happens. We are back on the command prompt, but let's see if the test file was created. There's another file in our current directory that is named test file. Usually when you log into a Unix system, you always log into your so-called home directory, and that is always going to be your current directory right after logging in. How do you know what directory you are in? You would say pwd to see where you are. Right now you're logged in as Vagrant, and you are in Vagrant's home directory. So before we do anything else, like changing directories, I wanted to remove that test file we created. To remove a file from the Unix system, the command is rm. If we say rm space test file, and we say ls again, now the test file has been removed from our directory. One thing to be aware of in Unix is when you remove something, it is permanent. There is no trash bin that you can go to or recycle bin that you can go to and extract your file back out. If you remove something, you've removed it for good. So keep this in mind and don't use this command unless you're sure that you want to remove something. Let's try pwd again, figure out what our present working directory is. Of course, we haven't changed anything, so we are still in the home folder for user Vagrant, which is /home/Vagrant. Let's change directories and go into the Unix_exercise directory. To do this, the command is cd or change directory. Type in cd, you say space, and then you type in the directory you want to enter. We want to enter the Unix_exercise directory. So we say cd Unix_exercise and press enter. And now you will notice that the command prompt has changed. Before, our command prompt was vagrant@vagrant-trusty-32:$ And now it is all those things except between the tilde and the $, you have /Unix_exercise. So this is an indication that you are in a different directory from the tilde directory. Let's say pwd and see where we are at. Do you notice the difference in output when you run the pwd command from the home directory versus running the pwd command from the Unix_exercises directory? The output basically gives you the path to your current working directory. Excellent. So now we are in the Unix_exercise directory. A very important concept in Unix is the concept of path. A relative path is a path to the location that you're interested in, relative to your working directory or your current location, whereas a full path is the location of the file starting with the root directory. Example, /home/vagrant/Unix_exercise, that's a full path. However, if you notice, what we used to change directories was just cd Unix_exercise because we knew that directory existed within our current directory. That is a relative path where we just say cd Unix_exercise. If we had said cd /home/vagrant/Unix_exercise, it would have had the same exact result. In most cases, using a relative path or a full path doesn't matter as long as you know where you're using it from. If you want to have it be agnostic of where your current location is, make sure that you're using the full path. This will ensure that you don't run into any problems with relative paths. But relative paths are nice because you don't have to type in a lot of information. So just a quick note, no matter where you are in the directory structure, to come back to your home directory, all you have to do is type in cd. And then if you say pwd, you will notice that now you're back in your home directory. You could even notice that from just looking at your command prompt. So another shortcut that we can use, say for example, we changed directories, and we are going to use the relative path this time to change directories. What we want to see is what is inside the GeneLists folder that is inside the Unix exercise folder. So let's change directories into the GeneLists folder. We can say cd Unix exercise. We want to go into the GeneLists directory. We say GeneLists and we press enter. We are now in GeneList directory. Say we wanted to come back to the home directory quickly. We just say cd without anything in front of it. And now we are back to the home directory. You can use the up and down arrow keys to move through all the commands that you have given previously. So if I go up, use my up arrow key, I can see all the commands that I've given. And all I have to do is pull up the command and say enter. So I want to change directories again to go into the GeneList directory to show you another shortcut. And I'm going to check where I am. Say we wanted to change directories back to the previous directory in the hierarchy. Say we wanted to go to Unix exercise without typing in the full path of how to get there. We can just say cd ... cd ... means go to the parent directory of the current directory you are in. When we say cd ... you will notice that now we are in the Unix exercise directory. You notice this because the command prompt has changed again. And what's between the tilde and the $sign is just Unix exercise instead of Unix exercise / GeneLists. I'm going to change directories again, go back to the parent directory. This will bring me to the home directory. cd ... always takes you to the parent directory. Just cd, no matter where you are, will bring you back to your home directory.